Itemization, itemization, itemization. One of the many major concepts of Dota that most players struggle with. You got the farm, you got the network, but you're still losing games because you ruined your itemization. Well, worry not. In this video, I will cover itemization in depth with blueprints and questions that you can implement to become the best at itemization in your bracket. Itemization in Dota is literally making your hero stronger and covering its weaknesses, right? So every hero has their strengths and their weaknesses, and with itemization, you kind of eliminate those weaknesses and make your hero more stronger. Like you need to, the point of itemization is to take your hero towards ideality in the game, right? So there's like itemization is simple, but it's also complicated at the same time in certain scenarios. Like let's just say every hero has like a default itemization. There's not a single hero out of these heroes that don't have a default itemization. It could change, it could vary from patch to patch based on how the hero has changed, and all of those things. But apart from that, every hero has kind of like the same default itemization in pretty much every game. Like for example, like if I'm playing anti-major PA, there's not a single game I would not buy Pet's Fury, right? That's like my default itemization because these heroes don't have any innate farming capability, so you need to buy a farming item on them. So when I talk about itemization, I talk about three things. One is that what does my hero like to do, right? What does my hero want to do? So every hero has their own strengths, as discussed, right? And then it's just like, then the next question I usually ask myself is like, what is going to stop my hero from doing that? Like, for example, if I take Sven as an example, right? Sven's strengths are this hero has insane burst damage and he can kill pretty much anything as long as he can hit them. But his weakness is that he's very easily kiteable. He doesn't really have any spells that help him reach the enemy, right? So it's very easy to kite him. So now you covered that with itemization. You can buy stuff like Ags, Blink, something like BKB, something like, what was that item called? Harpoon, yeah. So these items like kind of cover your weakness, right? That's what you have to aim for when you itemize. You have to think about, okay, but the default itemization is the same. You won't really change your Mask of Madness because it's going to help you farm faster, right? Sven doesn't have attack speed. He has cleave, he has farming capability, so he doesn't need Battle Fury or Maelstrom, but he still needs attack speed, right? So, and sustain, of course. So then Mask of Madness comes into play there. So that's how you kind of like think about it. So the first thing is that talking about default itemization, what I want you to start doing is, let's just say you're starting to play a new hero, right? So here you can see that I'm on Dota Pro Tracker, right? Any hero that we want to look at, like let's just say I want to learn Terrorblade. Let's just say I want to learn Terror. I'll just like search here, and then here you can see builds. There's like a common itemization build. You see like core items bought in 50% of the matches, more than 50%, right? This could definitely change, but the default itemization is almost always the same. So let's just say you're going for this facet, not the other one where you press your illusion and you lose HP. So you always need to buy Falcon Blade. Why? Because you need something that for mana regen. Now you could argue that why not Null or why not Bassi? But in this case, it's just like this hero lacks HP, and he likes to buy HP. Like you just need to buy a lot of HP on TP, and he usually does good. Like what you see here is that Falcon into Dragonlance. Like the default itemization is almost always the same. The only thing that is different is whether you buy Manta first or whether you buy Dragonlance first. So for this idea, you kind of understand that, okay, why do people buy Dragonlance? What does Dragonlance give us, right? So when you talk about Dragonlance, Dragonlance is going to give you stats and attack range, right? Basically an item that makes you tankier and also less kiteable. So this guy bought a Dragonlance here. So now you're thinking that, okay, why did he buy a Dragonlance here? What's the reason? Why did he not buy Manta first? So you look at the enemy lineup, you're like, okay, they have a Tiny, right? So Tiny is a hero that will do what? He's going to try to burst you, right? That's what he's going to try to do. So if you buy Manta first, as in the same amount of gold that you spend on Yasha can be spent on Dragonlance, right? Except that Dragonlance is going to give you 10 strength. Yasha won't do that. So in this case, you need HP versus this hero. Otherwise, he's going to keep bursting you on the map. So if you have Dragonlance, Falcon Blade, and maybe a Raindrop, he cannot do that anymore. He cannot like 100 to 0 you that easily. That's why he bought Dragonlance here first. And So yeah, this is like the main difference. But the idea that I'm trying to like instill here is that there's like one default itemization that you have to always kind of follow. So let's just say another different hero like Dragon Knight or some different role. So Dragon Knight, the default itemization, always going armlet madness. Every single game you're going to see that. Most games armlet Mask of Madness. The only time you will probably not see an armlet is if they're playing versus like something like AA. Like if I'm playing versus AA, armlet is just going to get me killed. So it's better not to buy it. But apart from that, you see that every game is the same itemization, right? Now a different hero. Let's just say Lina mid, a different role. So Lina mid is travels into Axe into Shard. Every single game, it's the same itemization. It's never changed, right? So the idea is that, okay, now we have, like, if you want to simplify it for yourself, you just go with the default itemization. Whatever happens after your default itemization is where you kind of like start covering your weaknesses as a hero. Like, for example, Dragon Knight. This is the question that we get asked before. When do I buy SNY? When do I buy BKB? When do I buy Manta, right? So you're going to see a lot of variation here. It's just like sometimes there's like SNY, sometimes there's BKB, right? Sometimes people just completely skip SNY and they just go BKB. Like, for example, in this game here, Satanic did not buy an SNY, right? So the idea is, what does SNY give us and what does BKB give us, right? So my default itemization is Armlet into Madness. And then the item that I want to buy next is going to be an item that will cover my weaknesses and help me fight, right? Okay, so when we go here, it's like, okay, what does Shinjan Yasha give us? 16 strength, 16 agility, very nice. But this is the major thing, the reason why you actually buy SNY. This part. So why is this very good? Because in certain cases, BKB is not going to help you. It doesn't give us stat resistance, but it helps us not to take magical damage, right? BKB gives you around 60% magic resistance, and you get immunity to pure damage and reflected damage, and you also don't get stunned, right? So there are certain things in the game that will go through BKB, right? In such cases, you buy SNY. It's like, yeah, I cannot, like, even if I buy a BKB here, these spells are still going to hit me and still going to do damage to me because they pierce spell immunity. So there's no point of buying this BKB here. And then SNY is like, okay, if there's nothing that I can't really buy a BKB for, then maybe I need to buy this, right? That's the main idea. So as a Dragon Knight, right, what do you want to do, right? Where's the strength of your hero? You have this range, big boss, like very tanky hero that does a lot of damage. So the idea about most carries is that all they want to do is like hit the enemy. They want to figure out a way to hit the enemy and kill them. That's literally every carry's gameplay, right? So now that is their strength. Their strength revolves around a lot of damage that they have, like Sven, God Strength, PA, Crit, Anti-Mage, Mana Void, and Mana Drain. All of these things. Dragon Knight's just like burst damage from a really far range. Like these things, right? So ideally, it's just like your inability to just hit the enemy is going to stop you from doing that. So let's just say I'm playing versus like a lot of fucking stuns, right? There's like a lot of stuns. They're going to constantly stun me, press Halberd on me, so I can't hit in a fight. So let's just say I'm like stunned for like 10 seconds in a fight. There's a very high chance that my team's gonna entirely die and I won't do anything in that fight, right? For example, like if Monkey stunned me, or if I'm like feared by Muerta, or if like these lineups aren't exactly in a way that where you're like, okay, that they can stun me, but they can kill you, right? They have a lot of magical damage. Storm, Muerta, and Lich. And none of these heroes have spells that you would be like, oh, I need SNY for these. You don't need those. Right, all they have is magical damage. In this case, like the reason why he doesn't go for SNY is because they don't have really a lot of things that he needs stat resistance for. They have a lot of magic that if he buys BKB, he can like fight them, and they have no way to like actually just like fight him because the physical damage that they have, he doesn't care about that because he's Dragon Knight, right? Similarly, Watson bought SNY as his third item. Why? Because they have Tiny, they have Beastmaster, and they have Lycan. Versus Lycan, BKB doesn't really help you because it's all physical damage. Versus Tiny is just like, you cannot press BKB before he presses all of his buttons, right? So having stats in this case is better. And then, of course, they have Roar. But he also needs BKB in the same game because he's playing versus Phoenix, right? He cannot hit Egg unless he has BKB, so he buys both of them. Sometimes you need both. Sometimes you can only get away with one, right? So it's just like, okay, now there's a default itemization. And then there's a mid-game itemization, which is also the same in almost every game, right? It's between SNY, BKB, or both. And then after that, you kind of buy items that will help you do damage, or even better. Like for example, sometimes you go Fling, sometimes you go Orchid, stuff like this. Like for example, this guy bought a Bloodthorn. My guess is here is that this Lifestealer probably does not have a Dispel, right? And Lifestealer is a counter to DK. So that's why he bought this Bloodthorn, where he's gonna blink on this Lifestealer, and he's gonna press the Bloodthorn, and then Lifestealer suddenly cannot fight him anymore. He's gonna die. But ideally, it's just like this is very rare. What mostly you're going to buy is between Daedalus and MKB, right? So you simplify it by, let's just say, default itemization into an item that makes you unkillable, helps you fight, into items that make you even stronger, right? This is how you can divide itemization. So now we saw the example of Dragon Knight. Let's just say a different hero. So let's just say bloodseeker, very meta hero right now. What does bloodseeker buy? So with bloodseeker, you have the default itemization, which is your radiance. Sometimes you can go maelstrom, and ideally you never go maelstrom unless you're versus heroes like, I would say, Nyx assassin. That's probably the only time you don't go radiance, because Nyx can use carapace and then can get fucked for it. So, but yeah, the most of all, like if you want to simplify it, just go radiance every game. Right? So that's like your default itemization sorted. Now it's just like, do I want to buy BKB or SNY, right? That's the idea. In most games you'll buy BKB, in some games you'll buy SNY. Like, but it's just like 90% of the games you're going to buy BKB, because Bloodseeker isn't a hero that can like do really well without, let's just say, BKB. In this case, Krish did not buy BKB, bought SNY first. Why? Because it's like if he's farming a side lane, right, and he's playing versus a Lina can press all her buttons on this Bloodseeker before he can press BKB, right? So if he dies before he can even press BKB, then there's no point of the BKB. So this is why he goes SNY first, where it's like, this Lina cannot burst me, and if I live to her combo, then suddenly she's useless. And then he goes BKB after that, because he's playing versus Rolling Boulder. So thing is, again, same concept, default itemization into an item that makes you unkillable, helps you to fight, and then after that you buy items that make you even stronger, right? Usually it's damage. So in this case, it's like BKB, SNY, or both in some cases, but majority of the cases you're only going to buy one, into Ags, right, which is your damage item, which helps you and makes you much more stronger, right? So in this case, like sometimes you can go Manta as well. So when do you go Manta? For me, Manta is something that I would buy where it's like I don't need any stat resistance, any at all, no stat resistance, and they have something that I really want to dispel, not press a BKB for, right? Because let's just say I use my BKB, they have a Bloodthorn, right? After my BKB ends, they can just Bloodthorn me and burst me. But in that case, it's like, if I have this Manta, it could come handy and like help me like survive and do damage to these fights. Like Bloodseeker only needs to survive most of the fight, and then he's like very good. So the idea is the same here. Default itemization, item that makes you unkillable, helps you fight, an item that makes you even stronger. And eventually it's just like, after that, what happens is you kind of adjust to the situation, as in what items do the enemy have. Like for example, here he has Eternal Shout. Why does he have Eternal Shout? Because he probably felt like, okay, they have a lot of magical damage that they can burst me from, so if I have this Eternal Shroud along with SNY, that should be enough to save me, right? You kind of adjust to what they have as well. Like for example, there's a Linken's here, right? This Linken could be for anything. Like if I'm playing versus a Doom, I definitely need the Linkens, right? It depends on when I want to buy it. So sometimes you kind of adjust to what the enemy doing. So coming back to the second question, which was, first was, what does my hero like to do and want to do? Second was, what stops me from doing that, right? Now the third question is, the second question is very general. What stops me from doing that? You generalize it. Stuns and all of that shit. The third question that you need to ask yourself, that in this particular game, do they have those things? Like for example, if as a Swen, if I get kited by stuns, hexes, whatever, then what does the enemy have that in their lineup right now? Like if I'm playing like versus, let's just say this is like my game, I'm playing versus Bristle, Tinker, Shaker, Tusk, and like I'm like, okay, these guys can do that or cannot do that. You like come to a conclusion that these are their heroes, this is how they work. And now it's just like, if they can't do that, then it's like, oh, now I have to buy items that will fix that for me. So in some games you might not need any defensive item. Like for example, the biggest example that I can give you is Puck, right? So Puck is a mid laner where sometimes you might not buy a single defensive item. Like first you see here is that he has Witchblade, Blink, right? Both these items very aggressive, nothing defensive, and then eventually goes Yules. So now I'm gonna let you guys think for a moment. Why did he buy Yules, right? What kills a Puck? Like none of these heroes really have a stun that Puck can't dodge or evade. So why does he need Yules here? What could the enemy possibly have that he needs a Yule?
Silence or roots.
Silence and roots, right? So if I open this game, I'm probably guessing one of them have an Orchid. That's literally why he bought Yules. If they don't have an Orchid, they literally just don't have any ways to kill this Puck, and then she's just gonna completely roll them over. So the weakness of Puck is if she gets caught, like the longer Puck stays alive, the more annoying it is. And Puck is really strong when the enemy can't catch her, right? So need to like figure that out. So now it's just like if we go through the itemization, I don't know how this fucking strat works, but I'll just click on this guy maybe. He has mates, only one item, no fucking way. This Orchid, right? So now Magnus has an Orchid. Now it's like okay, yeah, he adjusted to the situation. He bought third item Yules because they have an Orchid. Now they got an Orchid at 1730 and this guy has Yules at 20. So for 3 minutes, this guy couldn't play the game properly. But after this, they have nothing. They literally have nothing. So she is now suddenly unkillable. Now the hero that has had a weakness does not have a weakness anymore. This is what I mean that you kind of like change your itemization based on the game. But the default item for this hero is what? Witchblade, Blink. Which sometimes you're going to see Witchblade Yules as well. Or Yules first. Like this guy's having a really fucking shit game, right? Yules first item. You can tell that he's having a really bad game. And this Spectre probably has an Orchid and he cannot play the game well. Lost Lane is a classic. You have to buy Yules second or first item. Like even here. Where very high chance this guy also like this 16 minutes Witchblade just tells you that he had a very bad lane. And then one of them have an item that just like kills her. So he has to buy a Yules here, right? That's how you're just. In some games, you don't see a defensive item at all, right? You see Lincolns. So why does he have a Lincoln here? Because the only way that this guy can die is Lasso or Lina Burst, right? You buy Lincolns, you get rid of both problems. Lincoln's here again. Why? Because Lasso and Husker Ags eventually will just kill this guy. So you're just like making sure that he never dies. As long as they never die, they're just like they're good to go. So the idea about when do you buy Manta, SNY, and BKB, I hope that much is like mostly clear. So some heroes they just really hate SNY. Right? For example, I wouldn't really buy like you would rarely buy SNY on a hero that, like for example, Medusa. You will never buy SNY on her. You'd always buy Manta. Because some heroes with their Manta can really benefit from the Dispel and also they farm really fast. So some heroes you cannot buy that on. Now let's just say Alchemist, I guess. Alchemist also very meta hero at the moment. So Alchemist, default build, you all know it. Phase Boots, Soul Ring, Radiance. Every game you're going to see that. Then after that is between Manta, SNY, and BKB. Or sometimes you buy Blink first. I mostly buy Blink first because I want to fight, right? An item that helps me fight. Right? An item that makes you killable helps you fight. Right? So Dagger here and then eventual BKB, SNY, or Manta is what's going to help you. And then after that, items that make you even stronger is Orchid, Assault, anything. Right? Depending upon the game. So when you see this guy's itemization, he goes Radiance, Blink, BKB. The items timers are completely fucked. So it's kind of sad. And also in this game, it's just like if he buys SNY, it doesn't help him against this Timbersaw, right? Timber is always going to kill him. So he needs this BKB. Timber's gonna kill him faster if he has SNY, by the way. So because of extra strength. Timber loves heroes that have more strength. So if you buy SNY versus something like that, you're gonna get cooked. That's why like I played a game on DK and I bought SNY versus Timbersaw and I was like, what the fuck? If I bought a BKB here, I'd be rolling these guys because that game was completely winnable, but sometimes you buy the wrong item and suddenly you can't. So this third item, like this item here is very, very important. You cannot fuck this up. If you fuck this up, you could potentially delay your game. Like for example here, this guy buys Treads, Radiance, SNY, No Blink, and Assault. Right? Why does he do that? I think it makes him completely unkillable. Like they don't have really a lot of spells that he needs to buy BKB for. Everything that they have goes through BKB if you think about it. Right? There's no point buying a BKB here. That's why he just goes SNY. In this game, there's like a Manta. Why is there a Manta? I actually have no fucking clue why he bought Manta. And I think he shouldn't. Probably because there's a Gleipnir on Weaver, is what I'm thinking. Like, we can check that, of course. But ideally, it's just like versus Bane, Nyx, and Bloodseeker. You usually need S and Y because all their spells kind of like go through BKB, and then of course you need stat resistance for that. So what hero is this? Beaver third. Guessing this. It's not loading for me. Spirit Vessel, Shiva's Orb of Corrosion. I guess he bought it for the Spirit Vessel then. Another thing that he wants to dispel because Spirit Vessel, it reduces healing. That's like the main strength of Alchemist. So here, Blink, second item to fight. Manta third. Why Manta? Because track, probably Orchid on Brood, and Invokers like a Witchblade and everything, and his spells like he kind of like hates playing versus Manta. An eventual item that helps you fight and makes you even stronger, which is your Bloodthorn, right? So the idea is the same. You see it like it's the same pattern every single time, which is this, right? And now we can look at another hero, Phantom Assassin, right? She's also a bit, it's just like kind of simple that you need to buy Fury, but then after that it's just like, okay, now do I buy Manta? Do I buy SNY? Do I buy BKB? On anti-mage, it's not that hard because you're always going to buy Manta, always, never SNY, never BKB, right? And then eventually you can buy Linken's or something if you want to play defensive. So let's see. There's Fury here and then there's Manta. So why Manta? For me, it's a very simple decision here. He could buy SNY and he bought both. Panflap, he bought both.
Got it.
But I don't think it's good though.
On Titanic, but there you go.
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's good personally. And he also lost, so it probably wasn't. But I understand his decision. It's just like, yeah, I need this Manta for the TA, right? Versus TA, Manta is very good because you can dodge Meld or Dispel Meld, and then after that you can just jump her with the Manta, getting rid of her refraction really fast. I hate playing versus PA that buy Manta as a TA player myself. Then eventual SNY is for RP and like Clock Hook and all those stuff, but I don't think he needs that. I feel like he just needs to play around his team and he should be fine. Like else he can like dispel that. So in this game there's like a BKB second item. Why BKB? Playing versus Radiance, Trample, Phoenix, even though there's a Doom, but he literally, even if he buys an SNY, he's gonna instantly die. So that's why he buys BKB and then SNY both, because he needs both. Right? Manta here again. Why Manta? Playing versus Spectre, right? I played a game as a PA versus Spectre where I was like, I should buy Manta second item, but I was like, no, I should buy BKB. And you know what happened? I couldn't show in lanes. I show in lane, this guy pressed Haunt on me with fucking Bloodthorn, and I have to press BKB every single time. And because of that, the game is ruined. Right? But if I have a Manta, he can never do that. He can never do that. And then eventually he buys BKB after. Why? Disruptor magic damage. Lich magic damage can kill your hero very easily, and also, of course, stuns and everything. I see like it's the same pattern. SNY, sometimes even both. It's fine to buy both, by the way. See, default itemization, next item, you choose between a couple. And to make this process much easier for you and everyone else, just literally go to Pro Tracker. You don't have to like think about it or much. Just literally kind of go on Pro Tracker. The practice that I would do a lot is go on Pro Tracker, search the hero that you want to play, and then like, okay, why do people, what is the build for here? This is default itemization. Okay, then I want to buy one of these items. Kind of think about what do these items give you and what is good in this certain situation, and then just like play off of that. This is like the basic concept. This question is like, this is like how you want to itemize. You have default itemization, then an item that helps you fight, makes you unkillable, and then further on you buy items that make you even stronger, solve more issues. Could be defensive items, like let's just say they have a Hex or something, then you need Linken's or something. Then eventually it's just like the later the game goes, the enemy gets item, and then you watch their items, and then you just do that. Like, it's a long process, but I can tell you my story as well, is that when I was like fucking 3 MMR, I had no idea how to itemize. But since I kept this concept, like this, let's just say, I don't know, blueprint in mind, you know, constantly thinking about how I want to do this, eventually I was like at a point where it's just like itemization became very, very easy. And if you keep these things in mind when you itemize, well, eventually after like couple hundred games or whatever, your itemization, you can like kind of like predict, even when there's new patches and the heroes get changed, you're like, okay, now because this hero got changed like this, I can probably skip this item, you know? Like the reason why Spectre went from fucking Radiance every game to Orchid is what? Haunt got changed into Shadow Step, right? Now everyone's buying Orchid. So these type of changes could happen, but then it's just like, okay, yeah, I could adjust to that. And then it's just like when there's new patches and everything, and you go on Pro Tracker and like, why is everyone building? Why is everyone's build changing suddenly? Why is everyone buying Glimmer Cape? What the fuck is going on? You know? And that's how you kind of like get the idea. So, okay, this is why. Like, you need to kind of understand that what does this item give? That's the first question. Like, why are people buying this? What does this item give? What's the value of this item? Like, okay, this gives this. How is this good on my hero? What's the weakness of my hero? Like, PA is a hero that dies very fast to magical damage, right? But if you have Glimmer, you might just survive. You might just survive. So, like, okay, yeah, it covers this part of my hero. Yeah, so 3 questions.
I got a question.
Sure, go on.
So let's take PA and Ursa, for example. Sometimes I'm not sure whether to, let's say you want a BKB in the game, and you also want a Basher, which are pretty common for those heroes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine like if you want to go BKB first or Basher first? Because sometimes you might want the Basher first because you're not really doing team fights, you're just kind of getting pickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But other times, but you still need a BKB for a team fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it feels unclear to me whether to get BKB first or Basher first.
You kind of have answered your own question in a way. Like if you think about it, you're thinking that okay, if I'm allowed to play in a way where I'm just getting pickoffs, then I can go Basher. But if the game is in a state where the enemy is just fucking running at us, they're like 5-manning and everything.
Yeah.
And I know that this Basher is not enough, then I need the BKB to just fight, right? That's how you like kind of like answer your own question. To sum it up, first ask yourself 3 questions. What does my hero like to do? Come up with like, let's just say you play 2-3 different heroes. Just like you need to absolutely know what your hero likes to do. What is my hero's strengths? And then you're like, okay, what stops my hero from doing that? That is basically your weakness. They're like, okay, how do I stop that from happening? Is how you itemize with items. Then third question is, you just basically bring that into the game. When you're playing the game, like, okay, these are the problems that my hero could potentially face, and these are the heroes that could do that. So are these heroes in my game? Can they do that? And then you itemize accordingly. And then it's just like, okay, how do I itemize? You go on Pro Tracker, you come up with a default itemization, which is first 2-3 items. And then you look at, okay, what do they buy in the mid game, which is usually an item that helps you fight, makes you unkillable for that period of time, of course. You know, if you're hitting your timers right, this unkillable part might be very vague, but it is kind of true because at that point, like those 5 minutes, you will be unkillable if you have the correct timing and you buy the right item. And then eventually after 5 minutes, that will no longer be the case. And then you need to buy the items that will make you even stronger, and they will solve more issues that the enemy is like making for the game. Like they have more items, they have different items. I need to solve issues for that. This item could be good on my hero, this item is bad on my hero, stuff like that. Like even though anti-mage has reflection, you still buy Linken's versus LC and Doom because you cannot react to those things that easily. It's unreliable. So sometimes it's just like, okay, as long as AM is alive and allowed to split push, be annoying, he's a good hero. So I'll buy Linken's third item, right? Because an item that makes you unkillable, helps you fight, is also Manta. And then it's just like solve more issues. Items that make you even stronger is Ags, but if there's an issue, like Doom or LC, you buy Linken's or Rupture. And eventually you can buy that item that makes you strong. These two could go like left, right, whatever. So yeah, that is pretty much my in-depth, extensive itemization guide. Maybe like I've probably missed a bunch of things, but this could give you like an idea of like how you want to approach itemization in general. If you're stuck in a rut and want to really improve in Dota, I offer coaching packages that will help you improve significantly as they have for other students. I'm introducing a new package that guarantees Immortal in 6 months or a full refund. If you're someone who is very serious about improving and wants results fast, this is the package you want. If you're interested, you can either join my Discord, which is linked in the description, or visit my website at PainDota.com. I have other packages as well, so do check them out. Other than that, do check out Dota Academy if you're looking to join a Dota-related community that offers insane value for the price. This class is from Dota Academy, by the way. I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.